What's up everyone, Eddie here, ready to talk about the newest Ninja Turtle movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, directed by Jeff Rowe and produced by Seth Rogen, along with others, casted and played by others, and lots of other people worked on it, is my point. The reason I name dropped Seth Rogen specifically here is because going into it, it did make me slightly wary. When I was younger, I saw him, oh, he's a different comedian teller, this guy's a little funny, but as I grew up, I kind of got more back and forth on his stuff. Not to say I'm super mature and eloquent now or anything. It's just like I like what I like, you know? I can't really change that. But I really did like him as Donkey Kong in the Mario movie, which came to a complete shock to me. So I said, you know what? I'll go in expecting greatness from this movie. He was even in the intro telling me to enjoy the film. If it was bad, I would have been so sad. So, was the movie bad? You may be asking. Well, you have to wait to find out because I want to talk about a few other things first. But hey man, if you're new here, why not press the subscribe button? I come out with videos at a somewhat consistent rate, unless I don't. But yeah, subscribe please, I'm so desperate. So starting off, like online before the movie even came out, I knew this shit was going to be decisive. I reacted to the trailers on my reaction channel, Eddie Hates Reactions, and I knew I was going to probably like it, because I'm always open to different interpretations of beloved franchises. My biggest example is Spider-Man, even though I have a lot of problems with each Spider-Man incarnation in the movies, especially Tom's, I still think they all bring something different to the table in terms of different aspects of the Spider-Man character. And I think Turtles is kind of like that too, where we've seen so many different versions of them in adaptations, whether it's cartoons, games, or movies outside of the comics. And being a big Turtle fan who's a fan of the older incarnations, you do recognize the disparity between the comic Turtles, for example, and the public perception of the Turtles to the general audience as it is now because of all the more lighthearted versions we've had, namely the Nickelodeon version and Rise. And it's kind of seen as a kid's property now, which you know why. So I knew motherfuckers were going to come in saying, it's not dark enough. I understand. I do get it. I don't think it's the biggest deal, though. A series can be kid-friendly and still have mature themes. And now, does that mean this movie? No, this movie's not. It has, like, you could twist it to be like, it has very mature and super deep themes and stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a pretty cut-and-dry project. And it's very lighthearted. 99.9% of the time, there's alluding to, like, some sadder stuff. But even then, it's nothing too outside the realm of what you'd see in other kids' shows. But it's an introduction. And future films will most likely get to the more nitty-gritty shit. And if we're going to bring up changes to the lore as well, every Turtles adaptation has changed backstories and other shit. So once again, I don't see the problem. Sure, it goes very, very far into the goofy kids movie territory, but that's what this Turtles is going for. If that's not for you, I get it. Just go watch a different adaptation and let kids grow up with this one. And because I say that, someone's going to be like, but just because it's a kids movie doesn't mean it has to be immature. Kids can watch other movies with darker themes and stuff. Yes, they can. But this one just happens to be more, more lighthearted and more goofy. And that, like I said, that's what they're going for. So we can't change that. So let's at least talk about the things that outside of the tone of the movie could have been better. Because that's probably going to be such a tired conversation, I feel like. Now, onto the actual film itself. This is going to be a very disjointed review because I'm literally just reading the notes that I wrote during the movie. And normally I'm better off during these reviews because by the time I review a movie, I've normally seen a movie like twice because I like going to the movies a lot. I've only seen this once and I didn't write down that many notes. But to start off, the amount of new generation slang is absurd. I get it. We're fresh. We're young. But I wrote down the funniest ones I remembered. And I quote, I don't quote this, but they say Riz a lot of times. I heard the goat of all time come from Raphael's mouth. Yes, sirski. Sus. There was a whole thing about bacon, egg, and cheese, which I get isn't new slang. It's like, it's New York slang, I believe. But it was pretty funny, so I included it in here. There was also a yer. Shit was crazy. Spoiler, but not a huge one in terms of, like, the changes of adaptation. I will say, making Splinter having had taught them martial arts through YouTube is a little crazy. But at the end of the day, any complaints I may have about how the tone of the film affected the changes and how the film was done are pretty much outweighed by the fun I had in the changes that I did like. The soundtrack was pretty modern, fitting with that tone. It almost felt like a, hey, my fellow cool kids type of soundtrack, but it never came across as corny. And I really liked the inclusion of multiple great hip-hop songs in there and more. It was pretty good. Animation wise, probably the biggest selling point of this movie, following in suit of other great animated movies like Puss in Boots and Spider-Verse to be the two most obvious ones. The fights were fluid, looked great, the choreography was nice, the art style did kind of follow that trend, especially if you look at the Moon is probably the biggest example. They're trying to go with that comic book brought to life type of style, and I mean, even though the turtles are still like the very CG rather than 2D type of thing, but I think that's fine. And it looks great. Joke-wise, I thought there were a lot of pretty good jokes. I thought more were going to miss, but they kind of hit. There was even a whole joke about milking that dragged on, and it somehow delivered. I thought it was going to be super annoying, but without spoilers, it was pretty funny. And yeah, throughout the movie, I was giggling at many a cracked jokes. It's funny, this is the type of movie that back in the day would have gotten a follow-up series with questionable canonicity. Canonicity, is that how you say it? But it's almost like the reverse these days. Not with this film, but like Rise, for example. It started off as a series and then got a movie. A lot of anime start off a series and then get a movie. What happened to the day where we get one good movie and then a shitty series to follow it? Come on, man. Where were those days? I don't want those days back, I'm gonna be honest. Maybe canon series that have the same amount of care put into them, but not like a shitty slashed budget series. No, I'm good. We can keep this movies. Although I think this would kind of work as a series, but I don't know. Like I said, I'm always worried when stuff gets turned into series because sometimes they don't have nearly as much care. The main villain is played by Ice Cube. His name's Superfly, and he's fine. Not a horrible villain by any means. He's just okay. The second antagonist was kind of forgettable, but I'm assuming she'll have a bigger role in future films, so I won't be too harsh on her. I really liked Jackie Chan's Splinter, even if he is, once again, pretty goofy in this movie. At least they got the loving father part down, and he could still whip some ass. That's all I really need from his character. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, I almost forgot! We had the most disgusting scene ever. If you don't want to get spoiled on this part, I'll say it at the end. We'll skip this part for now. We'll skip this part for now. We'll talk about this in the spoiler section. The movie is extremely fast-paced, but it weirdly works. It does everything it needs to do. It introduces the turtles, how they feel, and they want acceptance. Gives us a good enough villain, I guess, but not one of their most recognizable foes as to not waste them. Gives us a resolution on that, sets up for the future without making it like a movie where you only watch it because it has an Easter egg or a post-credit scene for movie 2. It's not like a movie where you're only watching it for the setup, if that makes sense. It could have definitely went more in depth and arguably been better with a longer runtime, but it's good enough in my opinion. They really went through the motions and kind of did not the bare minimum, but they did the bare minimum story-wise while flaring up everything else stylistically. It could have definitely been grander, but it's not, and we can't change that. But I do believe that any issues from this movie could definitely be improved upon in the future, as long as they keep the enthusiasm of bringing the turtles to life through animation that they had making this one. Overall, I did have fun with the movie, as I said, and think that while yes, it has its moments, and I wouldn't call it a masterpiece or anything. I think there's way better Turtles media out there. I don't think this is anywhere near the top of the list, but at least it's got heart. It's a movie for the whole family to enjoy. I think kids will love it, and depending on what kind of Turtle fan you are, you might like it too. But yeah, I do think the biggest selling point is probably aesthetics for this one, which is fine because the rest of it is okay. I don't think it's horrible. I don't think it's great. I think it's fine. Now here's a few spoilers. So skip to the next section in the YouTube chapter thing, or like the very last minute maybe, or just leave the video. I don't care if you haven't seen the movie yet. I love the whole vibe with Superfly at first, where they're like, "Y'all are cool. I'll take you under my wing." And even though it's only for like 5 minutes, the turtles did look up to him as a cousin. It shows, that they really just want acceptance from those outside of their sewer family. And for a second, they thought they may have had it. It was kind of cool, and I normally like those vibes, but sadly, obviously, they had to fight him. And thankfully at the end, all of them other than Superfly were pretty cool, which I really like, seeing them as kind of just being side characters for the rest of this. Maybe it'll be set up for them to have really sad deaths or something. Who knows? Who knows what's in the future for them? I also found it awesome that they turned this into a kaiju movie at the end, because you gotta love kaiju movies. Also found it super goofy that we saved the day because Donnie's watched Attack on Titan. Crazy. I also like that they kind of speed ran the humans' knowledge of mutants. That was really cool, really different, having them join school and shit this early. It was kind of weird, but cool. The one I wanted to bring up earlier that I was scared of spoiling was the scene with April, where it funny enough does continue the trend of realistic portrayal of a panic attack in animation that's been a meme lately, with like Spider-Verse, Puss in Boots, Velma, where people are like, oh my god, a realistic portrayal, although Velma's was not good, but where they're like, it's a realistic portrayal of a panic attack, let's go. But April had like one of those moments, but the throw up was so nasty. Why was it animated so well? I have no clue. And then when you think she got over it at the end, she does it again. I don't really have much else to mention besides maybe the post-credit scene. Shredder is about to be lit. I only saw the backside of him for like half a second, but I think he looks good, I guess. I'm not really sure. I don't know. Yeah, like I said, this is kind of a shitty review, just kind of throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what people care to listen to me talk about. And yeah, it was definitely not going to be a movie where I'm forcing my friends to watch it because I think it's peak fiction. I'll just do that with 2007's movie. Was it 2007 or 8? Let me see. I always mix up the date. It is 2007. So good. There's so many good adaptations. But once again, this one's not offensive, I don't think. I think people are overreacting a bit. If you guys enjoyed the video, like, subscribe. If you didn't, you're welcome to tell me why I'm wrong, because I'm sure there are valid reasons against what I said. This is just my opinion. And yeah, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day. I'm hoping that. I love you guys, and peace. Bye.